High School in Pasadena. I love being a counselor. I've been a counselor for about 25 years, and I love being at Muir, but I will tell you about all the high schools, and you can ask me about any of the high schools. If I don't have the information, I can always email you the information that you need. So let's start off with, this is our 8th grade presentation and what to expect in high school. Next slide. Oh, that's me. Next slide. Here we go. Okay, so what is the role of the counselor, right? The school counselor wears many hats. We are the academic record keeper. We're a confidant. We're someone to bounce ideas off of. Sometimes we're the cheerleader. We're a recommender, often where we have to write letters of recommendation. We give program information. If you want to know about the different programs at school, we will often have that information. We are a liaison between the teacher and the student. We can give grade information, how a student is doing in courses, college, career, and scholarship information, financial aid, questions. And really, if you don't know who to ask, you can always ask the counselor, because the counselor will go and find out that information for you, or at least tell you who to go to. Because sometimes you have a question and you're not sure, oh, is that a question for the registrar? Is that a question for the attendance office? If you really don't know, feel free to ask the counselor. Also, your child should meet with a counselor at least once or maybe twice a year, at least, at minimum. But you do not have to wait for the counselor to call you in to make an appointment. So you can call, as a parent, you can email the counselor and make an appointment. You can call them and make an appointment. Depending on which school, different schools have like the type of way that they want you to reach out to them. At Muir, we really use email a lot, but we have a program called Setmore where people can just go in and make an appointment with us. I believe at PHS, they do the same thing, but they might do it with Google and only at certain times of the year. But like I said, you could always just email the counselor and find out. Next slide. So the role of the parent. You know, what is the parent supposed to be doing in high school? Because sometimes in high school, parents think that they need to be hands-off now. They already help them a lot through, you know, kindergarten, through the 8th grade. And they're like, oh, well, they're starting to be adults. Like, I'm going to be hands-off. To a certain degree, yes, that's true, because the counselor will often just call the student in to talk to them. However, I think it's very important that the parent supports and encourages the student, checks the student's grades and progress on the parent portal. You now have that wonderful application that you can use, and you can, you know, find out their grades and their progress. I would suggest that you have a student explain a lesson to you from their day at the school, just to check what they're learning. Reach out and have the student reach out to the teachers for academic questions. And then again, don't wait for someone to reach out to you. If you think something's not quite right, or if you have a question, then email them, call them. Also, this is really important. Ensure that all your information is accurate, especially your email. We communicate a lot through email, and so many of the emails bounce back. And I'm not going to go and check every single email, because I would really have to do like a query for each one to figure out which email belongs to which student. And then I would have to call that student in and say, hey, can you get your mom to email me with the correct email address? Like, because if I email that incorrect email address, it's just going to come right back to me. So it's really important that you ensure that all your information is accurate, your phone, your address, and your email. We also ask you to check the attendance and give the child the benefit of the doubt when it comes to high school, because now and then A student will maybe get to a class late, but they will have been marked absent, and it doesn't get changed unless they would have gone to get a tardy pass. Well, if they didn't go to get one and they just went into their classroom, they will be marked absent. So in that case, if you see that they were marked absent, you can say, oh, well, can you check with your teacher so that she can change it for tomorrow, or with the attendance office, whatever that may be. But I have seen that happen a lot. And I always give the kid the benefit of the doubt, because those mistakes do happen. And then as a parent, we really want you to talk to your kids and ask questions. And sometimes maybe it's not your child, maybe it's, your nephew or a foster child, and you're not sure quite how to talk to your child. But even as parents, sometimes we don't know what to ask our teenagers. So for the next 7 slides, I just have some silly questions that I got from the internet, and we're just going to go over them. So fun questions to ask your kids. What do you like daydreaming about? If you could give $100 to a charity, which would you choose? If you wrote a book, what would it be about? Just what makes you feel brave? What makes you feel loved? This first slide is one that I really like. Okay, next slide. Like I said, there's 7 of these. So we're just going to go over these quickly. If you wrote a book, what would it be about? What makes you so awesome? Make them really think about it. Like, why are they such a great kid? And you might have to come up with something to help them, because sometimes at this age, our kids don't have that self-esteem that they really should have. They should be way up here, but sometimes life has already, started to knock them down. So maybe they're down here and we need to push them back up. Next slide. And now these are more simple questions. What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite joke? But it's all the, who, what, when, where, why, how, all those questions. If you could eat one thing every day for the rest of your life, what would it be? Just silly questions, but it just starts a conversation going. Next. What is your favorite thing about yourself? Again, trying to build them up. If you could go back and do something differently, what would it be? Now, this one's really interesting, because you'll see and try to remember how a child thinks, right? Like, to them, some little tiny moment is just like bringing them down, when you're like, oh, you walked into the wrong bathroom? Like, we don't think it's all that big, but to them, it's so big. And if it's not something so big, you can thank your lucky stars that, oh, okay, that's all they're going through. It's not so bad. And if it is something bigger, then, maybe we do need to refer to counseling or something like that. So they're gauging questions to figure out where our kids are. Next slide. Again, I said 7 pages of slides, and I wrote down the website that I got all these from. Let's see. What job would you never want to have? What is the best smell in the world? Some of these questions are even fun just to ask your partner, they're just, okay, next. I think that might have been the 7th slide. Okay, so really what we want to do, we want to encourage open dialogue, right? Teens need to know that they can ask questions, test their opinions, and speak freely without fear of consequences. You can tell them that you may not agree on everything, but you're interested in what they have to say. Ask open-ended questions. Ask them to support their ideas, right? So just asking more questions about whatever it is they're saying. What do you know about that? Why do you think that? Right? Admit when you don't know something. As kids move into the teen phase, it's okay for them to see that their parents may not have all the answers. You can say, I don't know. Let's try to find out more. As a counselor, I have kids sometimes ask me stuff and I don't know the answer. I'm like, let's find out together, and then we'll Google something. It's just the way the world works. We don't have all the answers, but we can look for those answers together. Now, get them to consider the complexities in difficult subjects. Okay, this one's a little harder, right? Because there are social issues, politics, tradition, and all these contribute to making some problems seem just incurable. Ask, what makes different issues such as rape, violence, and crime so hard to solve? What key things need to be changed to fix certain issues? These are harder questions. And then share your values. Let your kids know where you stand on issues. Explain to them where you stand. It's good for them to know where you're at. Okay, next slide. Also, we tend to get wrapped up in our own news, but consider, their news. And even some of the fun things like the TikToks, have them show you what their favorite one was for that day. It could spark some conversations too. Ask what they would do differently if they are in a really difficult situation. So this one's more of like a role play, or if this were to happen, what would you do? And maybe have them find answers to that if ever they're in such a situation. Get them to consider solutions. Teens can be cynical, but they can also be idealistic. So if anything is going to get better, it's this generation who's going to do it. So hopefully, we can rely on them eventually. So we want them to start considering solutions. Okay, next, the role of the parent continued. This is regarding school and community. So for school, we really would like them to take advanced placement and honors if they can. Now, some students might not be able to reach that, but I do want you to know about the different AP courses that we have at the high school. So advanced placement, which we call AP, and you will often hear people say AP. It means advanced placement. They are courses through the College Board, and they demonstrate more rigor and competitiveness to the colleges. So the colleges will see that the student is trying to go above the minimum or above just the status quo. They earn an extra point towards their GPA for each advanced placement class. Students may also receive college credit if they perform well on the AP test. And most schools offer these classes. There's the AP World, the AP US History, the AP English Language, the AP English Literature, AP Calculus, AP Biology, AP Physics, AP Environmental Science, AP Spanish, AP Studio Art, and some schools offer AP Psychology. Now, the difference between AP and honors, some schools offer honors level because it shows more rigor. Most schools, if you have AP, then you don't have the honors class, but some schools still do it. For the most part, if you have the choice between honors and AP, the colleges are going to see AP as more rigorous. It's almost like honors is the AP light, okay? But sometimes there are honors classes that don't have an AP component, in which case you want to take that honors class. Now, honors classes do not receive an extra point for GPA. There's also a program called Puente, and it's in each of the high schools. I believe Blair has opted out of this program, though. Puente is a unique program that teams a school counselor, a college level writing class, field trips, and a support team that is committed to maximizing the student's education to see that he or she graduates from a Pasadena high school and enrolls in a 4-year college or university. And some schools also offer a math honors, sometimes a math 2, sometimes a math 3, depending on the school. Okay, now there are special courses that kids can take. Some of those can be like the academy course. Every school has academy. We have aerospace engineering. Actually, it's not called aerospace engineering anymore. Interesting, because that's my school. There's, oh, I see, because these are the courses. Sorry about that. So some of the courses could be aerospace engineering, business management and entrepreneurship, engineering and design, film and video, law, computer science, graphic design. Depending on which academy your school has, they will offer some of these courses. And sometimes even students that are not in the academy can take this as an elective. And then different electives that students can take would be ceramics, chorus, graphic design, you know, some of your more art kind of based electives, but there can also be urban culture and society, journalism, yearbook. Next slide. Then there are special programs. Each school has a lot of programs. There's usually, every of the schools have a Cal State LA outreach. They have college access plan, and Wendy's going to talk to you about college access plan. It started at Muir and we love the program. And this program will help with college questions and applications and can do a deeper dive with the student than the counselor can just do. So the counselor can give some advice, but if the student goes to CAP after school once a week, you know, they can really get some great information and some great help. There's dual enrollment with Pasadena City College. We also have Learns, a male mentoring group, a girls group. There's Puente that I mentioned before, UCLA, EAOP, Upward Bound, and there's all sorts of upward bound programs through Cal State LA, through PCC. There's the VIPS program through UCLA. I believe the VIPS program is only at Muir and PHS, but there are so many programs that I would really, you know, request that you go to your counselor and ask about which programs are available. Next slide. As a parent, you should also be aware of all the extracurricular activities that are available at the school. Baseball, basketball, dance, football, you know, just a lot of the sports teams, but there's also things like ASB, which is the Associate Student Body, which is going to be your school government, journalism, Green Club, robotics, Solar Cup, Film Club, business leaders. You know, there's just a lot available for them. And if there is a club that they really want that a school doesn't have, they could create their own. All they have to do is make sure that they have a teacher that backs them in this club, you know, where they can meet once a month or once a week, however it is that they want to meet. And our schools also offer internship opportunities. These are through local businesses and organizations, and they usually happen in the 11th grade through the academies, but there are also some through the city. So it's just really important that you ask your counselor if there are any internship opportunities, and maybe check out on their website if there's any internship opportunities. Next page, please. Next, I want to go into high school graduation requirements, college entrance requirements, and sports requirements. So this is going to be your PUSD requirements, UC Cal State requirements, and then NCAA. Next page. Now, you're going to see it really pretty small here unless you have a big screen, but there are 3 different types of requirements. And kids will often come to me and say, oh, well, I don't really have to take that because I met the requirement. But what they're looking at is the minimum requirement for high school or the minimum requirement for college. We always want to go beyond the minimum. So on the next slide, we're going to see just the high school graduation requirements. So this is just something that you should know of what the students have to take in order to graduate. The counselor will keep track of this, and if your child gets A's and B's and C's, there's not going to be any problem with this. You're just going to go with the flow, what the student takes, and try to then go beyond the minimum. But it's going to be the 3 years of history, 4 years of English, 3 years of math. Okay, but that, again, that's minimum. The counselor is always going to push them to take the 4 years of math. Same with the science. It's 3 years of science. The counselor is going to push them to take 4 years of science. Physical education, world language. Now, world language, we only have 1 year of world language as a requirement for high school. However, colleges are going to require 2 years and really want to see 3 and 4 years. Now for visual and performing arts, it's only 1 year, but kids can take more years, especially if they're into one of those, like let's say they really like to sing and they want to take chorus every year, then that's fine. They'll meet the minimum with the 10 and then they'll continue forward. And then the electives will just really fall into place, especially like depending on how many classes they take. At Muir, kids will graduate with over 300 units. At PHS, if students pass everything, they'll graduate with at least 240. So, you know, there are those requirements. Also, there is a portfolio presentation that they need to do and community service hours. And we usually require 40 hours of community service for graduation. But for this year, this graduating class, it's only going to be 10, or is it 10? I can't see myself. 10 hours because of the pandemic. Now I see people are writing in the chat. Should I look at those questions really quickly, or is someone monitoring the chat?
I'm monitoring the chat, Dr. Huster. It was just a question about the slides being shared.
Okay, very good. And I think you will have access to all these slides. Okay, the next one is going to be our college requirements. Did we move? Yeah, next slide, please. There we go. We call them the A through G requirements. You may have heard this and say, why do they call it that? Well, the funny thing is it used to be the A through F requirements because they added the G in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. So the A through G requirements simply correspond to the different subjects. So your world history is your A subjects, your English is your B subjects, your math is your C, and so forth and so on. Had they been numbered, it would have been your 1 through, 7 requirements. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, your 1 through 7 requirements. So for history, you'll see the requirements kind of line up with the high school graduation requirements, but they are a little different. And this is why it's important maybe to have the 3, little charts, and you can check them off as you go. But for history, they only require the 2 years. We require 3 years for graduation because we're going to use that econ and that government as the G requirement when it comes to the colleges. For English, they require the 4, same as us. Math, they require the 3, same as us, but they really want 4 or even 5 if they can get to the calculus. For science, funny enough, they only require 2. We require 3 for graduation, but really we would like to see 3 or 4 recommended because that's going to make you seem, or make the student seem more competitive. And that's who they're going to pick, the student who is more competitive. For world language, 20 units is what they have to have. But again, if they can have the 3 or the 4 years of the world language, it's just going to make them look more competitive. And if language comes easy to a student, then yes, continue to take it. If it is very, very difficult, then maybe they should stop after the 3 years. That's an individual conversation that you should have with the counselor. And then how many units is each class? Each class is 5 units. So when you have world history, notice that there's the 2 boxes. One is for fall, one is for spring. So then that's going to be 10 units of history, of world history, 10 units of US history. So it's 5 and 5. Next, let's see. Whoops. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. NCAA is going to be for your students who are going to play sports. Now, for your students that are going to play sports, you need to have an accurate count of which classes they've taken, because they have to finish 10 of them by the end of their 11th grade. And they have to keep a 2.3 minimum GPA. So it's also 4 years of English, 3 years of math. They only require the 2 years of science, the 2 years of history, but then there's an extra here, an extra English, math, or science. So that would be that extra year of science that they take. And then they require 4 courses of additional core, 4 courses of additional core courses. So it could be the government and econ that they take, the Spanish 1, the Spanish 2, and then they have to go further in that math, science, or foreign language. That's why I said, like, when you have that recommended 4th year, that would fall into here. So for NCAA, there's actually even more requirements than there are for the minimum requirements of the A through Gs. And I know it gets like a little, mixed up, convoluted, but for the most part, if you look at the next slide, it's the 3 of them all together again. You can see they do, they do mesh. As long as I said, as long as a student is getting A's, B's, and a few C's, they will be fine. If students start to get D's and F's and classes have to be taken over, that's where then you have to start thinking about, okay, am I going to take this in summer? What's my plan? That's when you really have to talk to the counselor closely to make sure that the student is still college eligible. And if they're going to be playing in college, playing a sport in college, that you let the counselor know that, because that's not something we're always checking for. So it would fall into play if a student is getting A's, B's, and C's. But if there are some D's in there and classes were taken over, that's where some of that might fall, and only the graduation requirements are the ones that are upheld. Right. So we want to always be in the loop. If we're trying to get a kid to college or to play a sport in college and they got a D or an F or a few D's or a few F's, that we really have that conversation about how are we going to do this together. Okay, next slide. This is, we talked about the service hours a little bit, like I mentioned it. So it's 40 hours minimum for graduation, 200 hours if they're trying to get that medallion. Now, I'm assuming that your students are currently 8th graders and they will be coming up and there will be no more pandemic and we will be going back to this. So if they can, volunteer at their church, volunteer in the community, volunteer at school, be on the ASB, that's going to get them hours. Just make sure that those hours get recorded. So I would suggest that you have, just an Excel sheet that you write these in, and you write the name of the organization, the date of when you did it, from what time to what time, that's the hour, and then what the student did, right? The activity, the description. And if you can get a supervisor's name, that would be great, because that's how we enter them when we enter them. Now, for the different schools on their websites, you will find different volunteer, information. It's usually under academics or it's under counseling. So for Muir, it happens to be under academics, and then you go to counseling, and then you'll find different opportunities. The last thing on this particular slide is the senior defense. Now, every student needs to complete a senior defense, and they do it in their senior year, but they have to start thinking about it from the 9th grade through the 12th grade. And people think that this is a really hard project, but it is not. The senior defense is a project that consists of a reflection paper where they write how they have grown as an individual from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. They give examples of this growth through assignments that they've completed, and the reflection must include 2 pieces, a creative piece and a research piece. But if they include more, then that's fine, right? But they must include a minimum of 2 pieces, a research piece and a creative piece. And they turn that reflection paper into a presentation. What did I write here? As an 8th grade parent, I simply want you to be aware of this requirement. And when I have talked to seniors and I asked them, well, what was the hardest part of the senior defense? And they said really just thinking about which assignments like made them turn that corner or made them grow or gave them that like aha moment. So if students are thinking about it right from the start, it'll be that much easier to write. Next slide. Now, students are also able to get awards at school. And I want you to be aware of these awards because sometimes I've had kids go through school and then at senior year and they're like, well, had I known about these awards, you know, I would have tried for them. I would have done these other things in the 9th or 10th grade. So I'm letting you know now there are awards and you should keep a record of all of the students' activities because the more activities, the more possible awards they could get. I do suggest that in this running record, you use these categories that I have: leadership positions, educational preparational programs, volunteer and community service activities, internship, work experience, even leadership groups, awards and honors that they've received, and extracurricular activities. And the reason I listed them this way is because this is how the UC application, for the most part, lists it. So if you already have it written, then they already have some of their UC application completed. Also for NHS, which is the National Honor Society, when they have to turn in that application, it is for the most part written with these categories as well. So they will already have them written. Now on the next page, I'll show you what awards are available. So there is usually a service award. It's the highest honor to recognize those that have provided service to their specific high schools. Different schools pick it in different ways. But basically, like, let's say that your child is pretty much running the drama club, you know, and then the moderator says, oh yeah, if it wasn't for Susie, we wouldn't even have this club. That's the kind of student that gets the service award, you know, or the student who is always, you know, at every single activity and is selling everything. And the principal's like, oh yeah, without that student, we wouldn't have been able to fundraise all of this, you know, where they're really standing out. The Biliteracy Award is an award that demonstrates that the student is both proficient in English and a foreign language. Usually this is accomplished through the SBAC test for the English section. So they have to score proficient in English. And then usually Spanish, because that's the language we have, if they reach that AP Spanish level, or if they take a test in the foreign language, either through the College Board or an approved test that, again, you can talk to the counselor about. But that's usually senior year. And the reason I mentioned it now is because sometimes on those state tests, kids don't always put their all in because they know a grade's not attached to it. But sometimes some of the awards are attached to it. So it's important that they always do their best on those tests. The California Scholarship Federation is based on grades and activities. Same with the National Honor Society, but it also is based on leadership. The Academy Medal is based on community internship hours, and they have to be in an academy. Sometimes Puente or Upward Bound or Talent Search or MPYD or other CLIBs give participation medals or like sashes. And then there are ethnic sashes that are awarded by the district or by the community. So it's just good to know that those are out there and that you should be participating so that the student can receive those. Then when they graduate, you know, they have all those awards and all the regalia. It's kind of nice. Next slide.
Dr. Huster, there was a question in the chat box. Is there a biliteracy award also for Mandarin?
So I guess it would depend on how far the student goes in that language. For example, if they took beyond the 8th grade portion of it, if they continued with it at maybe a PCC class, then we would have to talk about how we could get them awarded that. They might have to take the Mandarin test through the College Board to show that they are proficient in it. Because the immersion program doesn't continue in high school, as far as I'm aware. We don't have that yet.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go on to the academies that are available at the different schools. So we have Blair has the Health Academy, the International Baccalaureate Program, and the Armenian Dual Language Program. Marshall has the Academy for Creative Industries. John Muir has the Arts, Entertainment, and Media Academy, the Business and Entrepreneurship Academy, and the Engineering and Environmental Science Academy. And Pasadena High School has the Computer App Academy, Creative Arts, Media, and Design Academy, and the Law and Public Service Academy. And I believe within the Arts Academy, they also can split into two academies. So there's a lot of choices there. Okay, next. Okay, so for open enrollment, you should check where your schools, where your home lies on the school's map, right? To know which school your student is slotted for. Because if that is not the school that you want them to attend, then you need to apply or complete the open enrollment form. Now, the first round of open enrollment was from January 10th to January 28th. So that one already closed. Now we have the second round, which is from March 7th to the 11th. And students and parents will be notified if they received an open enrollment permit. But that is the web page in case you want to go to it. 8th grade scheduling. Okay, muirPHS will be sending out a survey to the students and parents in their attendance zones and students with permits. So if you don't receive a survey, and we haven't sent it out yet, but once it's ready, you can go to the school's website and it will be posted on the website. But we do send it to the students and to the parents that are in the attendance zones. Now, on this survey, the students can pick their academy, their classes. They will have a link that where they can make an appointment or send an email. And then when it comes to Blair and Marshall, their counselors are meeting with their students because they go to that same school. So let's just say that you are currently a Blair student, but you are going to get a permit to go to Muir or get a permit to go to PHS. Once you attain that permit, you need to meet with that counselor to pick classes, because you won't be on that regular attendance zone list that we would get. And then any new student should contact the registrar or the counseling office. And as I said, if you're not sure who to contact, email the counselor. Like, we will at least help you figure out where that email should be directed. Next. Okay, so these are the different colleges and universities that I just simply want you to be aware of. There are 10 UC schools. And you'll hear us always throw out UC, CSUs. And so just so you get an idea of what they are, there are 10 UC schools, there are 23 CSUs, there are 113 California community colleges. So those are all the public institutions in California. There's also 81 private and independent colleges and universities in California. So that's all California. Then there's out-of-state universities. There's historically Black colleges. So there's just a lot of schooling available. There's also trade schools, trade tech, beauty schools, DeVry. So there's a lot of possibilities out there for students. Next slide. I want to talk to you about dual and concurrent enrollment. Okay, both of these are college courses while the student is in high school. Sometimes they're used interchangeably and it really doesn't matter, but dual enrollment is held during the school hours and on the high school campus. Concurrent enrollment is held after school and usually on the PCC campuses. Now PCC does have what do they call it? A West campus at Muir. So they took over one of our buildings and they do have a campus on our school. So even though it's held at Muir, the after school classes are on the PCC campus, if that makes sense at all. Okay, so the next slide I have for you is some homework. I want you to go to the website. You don't have to do it now. It's just go to the website of the school that your child will attend. I want you to find the counseling services page. For some schools, you will find it under services, and for other schools, you will find it under academics. Find a counselor, send them an email stating your child's name and ID number, and simply ask them for a bell schedule. The reason I'm asking you to do this is because you don't know who's going to be your child's counselor or, but this way you get used to using the website, finding where the counselor is, and you can get a bell schedule, right? I also want you to use the search tool to write the word clubs, right? On the search tool of the PUSD website that you're at. Whether it's muirPHS, Marshall, Blair, CIS, Rose City, and write the word clubs and just see what pops up. Like for some schools, all their clubs pop up. For other schools, just a few of them do, but it's just good to see them and also just explore the website. See what is in that website, see what they have to offer. Then on the very next page, here's your cheat sheet. Next slide. Oh, not working.
I'm kind of stuck here. I'm trying.
Well, on the next slide, you will find the actual websites for the different schools and the contact information. And if you're going to get a copy of this, then you will find it. There it is. So the web page for Blair, for Marshall, for Muir, and for PHS, the address, the phone number. I know it's really hard to get a hold of people on the phone. Some schools are way better than others. I myself, I'm awful on the phone. I'm great at email. I will email you back, like usually within 24 hours, sometimes within 2 minutes, but it's hard to get me on the phone because if I answer the phone, that means I have time to help you on the phone. And usually I'm doing so many other things that, I can't really help you on the phone. So I do want you to be aware of that. And then the very next one is my contact information. And even if I am not the counselor of your child, or if you are not attending Muir, I can still answer questions. So I'm still available for that. I see a question, something about math. Do kids take calculus in the 9th? Most do not. Every now and then we do get a few. that are in, crazy math programs. And we did have, I believe 10th grade is the earliest that we've ever had a student start calculus. And then if they go beyond that, they could always take math at PCC. So if that's where the student really is, that is possible. Did I miss any questions that were in the chat?
No, I think you got them all. I know that same parent asked about if other parents knew of their kids already taking the BC exam in 8th grade and what happens in 9th at PHS specifically.
So they've already gone beyond the math. So they would probably take more math through PCC. Yeah, they would have to, because we don't have anything beyond that. Right. Right, but I don't think it goes beyond the calculus BC. I could be wrong. I can ask my colleagues at PHS. You want to send me that question directly, and then I will ask them if that goes beyond the calculus BC. Because I know PHS does have calculus AB and calculus BC, right? Statistics, though, is just another option. It's not higher than calculus. Yeah. So sometimes when students take courses through PCC, if the counselor can make the schedule work, depending on how the master schedule was set up, they can have a minimum day. We usually don't like the younger kids to have a minimum day, but if they are that so far advanced, we will make allowances for it. It's just not the regular procedure. But I mean, we can always make allowances, especially when you have a student, that has those special needs like that. I think that was it. We good?
Yes, do we have any more questions, or should we move to the next person? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gonzalez,
Certainly.
for informative, comprehensive.
Maybe too much information?
No,
right?
This is great. I just want to remind parents that the PowerPoint and the recording, we will put it on our Canvas website. Rosie, if you have a chance, could you put the link to our Canvas website? That way parents could go back, take a look at the PowerPoint, or look at the recording again at their convenience. So thanks again, Dr. Gonzalez.
Of course, I'm going to mute myself now.
Thank you. Now we would like to invite Wendy Duran with College Access Plan to speak about their services to our students and families. As I mentioned earlier, College Access Plan offers direct services on our campuses. And let me just start sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And thank you to all of you for hanging in there and still being here and attending. You may or may not have heard of CAP, College Access Plan, but like Dr. G said, we actually celebrated our 15th year anniversary last fall. And we did start at Muir High School with one English teacher, one PCC professor who is now our executive director. And we have a full staff that covers the 4 different departments. And as we start sharing, one of the things that Dr. G mentioned is that we have a plethora of different types of nonprofits or organizations through UC, through the private sector, Puente Project, right? There's a bunch of different outreach programs that students can take advantage of. One of the things that makes us a little unique is that we have no requirements. So there isn't an application or a qualification process. So we like to say that there's just no barriers, no requirements, no limits. And if students choose to participate in one or more programs, we always welcome them to be a part of CAP as well. So if you notice at the bottom, we have 4 different departments. We have the middle school, which is what your students are now. So in case you have other middle school students in the pipeline, we do offer programming. High school, iHeart College is the one program we do. I won't talk too much about it because you're just transitioning into high school, but it is a program that provides support not just through high school, but high school, college, and beyond. So they really stay with us a really long time. And then we have the parent and family engagement department. And if we can move on to the next slide. So we offer free college readiness support at both the high school through the high school drop-in program and the middle school program. And as I mentioned, anyone and everyone is welcome. So there is no application or qualification. You could be a first-generation student, a fifth-generation student. Literally, you just show up to the high school program at high school drop-in and you fill out a first-time student survey and you're automatically a CAP student. It is student-centered and the students opt into our program. That's the only thing. And if we can go on to the next. So this is just a little snapshot of our middle school program. Pre-pandemic, we were offering after school programming and also some daytime programming. And we provide family workshops that target both middle school and high school level students and families. And we do partner with programs such as STARS and Skills. And there is that picture was of a student with their college collage. Next, we have our CAP drop-in program. This is sort of our big flagship program, and you'll notice that we're at every single school twice a week. During the pandemic, we were virtual, but we luckily are back on campus, so we're really excited about that. So 2 of our program coordinators, they will do a Monday, Wednesday. So Blair and Marshall are our Monday, Wednesday schools, and you can see the location there. Every year, depending on the school site's needs, we may have a different classroom, but for this year, this is where we're at. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're at Muir and Pasadena High School. And if you'd like to just get more information and just kind of take a peek, you can go to our website at collegeaccessplan.org/drop-in, and we're there from 3:45 to 5:45. So like Dr. G said, you can come as often or as little as you'd like, or for your student to come in. So they can literally come in for 15 minutes. They can come in for an hour. They don't have to stay the entire time. They don't have to come every single week, twice a week. So, if your student is starting off as a 9th and 10th grader, they can come once a month or once every other month. That's perfectly fine as well. And they can come with friends. So it's not something that they have to do in isolation, and it kind of makes it more fun that way. We can go on to the next slide. So like Dr. G said, we do have an opportunity to work a little bit more in depth with students with regards to anything that relates to supporting students into and through college. So having them come early will help them research different types of colleges, potential careers, majors, looking at scholarships, right? That's one thing that I had my little sister do early on is, as a 9th grader, start researching scholarships as if you were a senior. So pretend you're a senior now and look at what kind of requirements a lot of the scholarships that you would want to apply to have. And that way you have 3 years to work towards, whether it's 100 hours of community service for that specific scholarship. Maybe they need 2-3 letters of recommendations from teachers or community members, so that she got to work her way backwards and see, okay, I'm going to need 100 hours and I can split that up in a matter of like 3 years. In addition to that, we do have a Google Classroom, something that we added during the pandemic when everything was virtual, but we continue to provide that support. So once the student comes into DropIn, they get a link and they can browse through the different activities, and then they can come in and get support as needed for themselves. And finally, this is our from the middle, Natalie and Cynthia are both our program coordinators. So Natalie is at Muir and Blair, as well as Rose City for our daytime program. And Cynthia is at CIS, Marshall, and PHS. To the right is Daniel Garcia, and he actually runs the Junior 101 class and the Writing Intensive class. So you'll see classes offered in the fall and in the spring, and typically it'll target the juniors and seniors. To your left, my awesome coworker, Natasha Mahone. She is our program manager, and both her and I work with the middle school program as well as the parent and family engagement. And finally, we encourage you to follow us through any platform that you prefer, be it Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, or you can go on our website, and I'll also put my email in the chat in case you have any questions. And again, you will be receiving a copy of the presentation, it sounds like, and you'll be able to access this presentation so you can get any of our colleagues' information as well. And that concludes my part. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for offering or reminding our families about the amazing services from College Access Plan. Do we have any questions, Rosie, or should we move on?
There was a specific question. Is there something going on now at middle school? This parent had not heard anything in regards.
Yeah, so we sort of changed our offerings during middle school for during the past year and a half. So right now, our only programming is a daytime program at Washington.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I think we have with us Ms. Susan Schwartz with the Pasadena Education Network. And I do see Laura in the chat box too. As I mentioned earlier, Penn offers services for our families. So Susan, the floor is yours.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Susan Schwartz. I know a lot of you and not all of you, but Penn is Pasadena Education Network is a, as the name implies, it's a parent network. We have about 2,000 families who are either in PUSD schools K through 12 or considering schools for their kids. And so our main mission is to really promote that participation from families to benefit the education of all of our students. And one of the things that we can do is really just sort of connect parents with other parents. And I think at this, you know, entering into high school stage, when you're going into kindergarten, at least in normal times, you tend to sort of meet a lot of other families and have those connections made at school. And by the time you get to high school, your students are more independent. You're not as likely to be on campus, although there certainly are opportunities for parents to volunteer at the high school level. But what we'd like to do is just sort of give parents ways to easily connect with other parents. And so on our website, we have a page called Talk to a Parent. I'll just type the link in the chat. But it's basically by school lists all our parent ambassadors. And so you can, you know, if you know which high school you're going to and you don't know anybody else whose kids attend there, this is a way that you can find someone who, if you had questions, just sort of that you wanted to get a perspective from a parent, they are available to, you know, to respond to either. You can contact them by email or, you know, you may set up a time to talk by phone or whatever makes sense. And then in the spring, we will be doing a program that we call Hello High School. And And again, it's basically sort of like this, but a little bit more informal and more of a parent panel where you can kind of talk with parents of current high school students and get their perspectives on how does the parents' role change? What have the issues been? What are they, in what ways are they supporting their students? How is that changing as you go from middle school onto high school? And that is not yet scheduled, but we will post it on our website, pennfamilies.org. If you're not already on our mailing list, you can go to pennfamilies.org and just join us. It doesn't cost anything. And we just send a little bulletin out every week to let people know what events are coming up. Or you can just check our website calendar and look for information there as well. And that's really about all I have for right now.
Thank you, Susan. Do we have any questions or comments in the chat box?
No questions or comments.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I want to go back to Dr. Gonzalez's comment about the homework. This specific workshop is part of our partnership. When I say our, I mean the Office of Family and Community Engagement, our partnership with Adult Ed. And with this partnership, we have several workshops, and a parent could kind of select, it's like a la carte menu. They can select 4 workshops out of several workshops throughout the year. And once they complete it, they will get an adult ed certificate from Pasadena School District. In a moment, my colleague, Rosie, will put in the chat box the link to the catalog of all the workshops available at the moment. And if any one of you chooses to kind of take a couple of more workshops, totaling 4, and if you do the homework, then yes, you will get the certificate from us. So once Rosie puts that catalog in the chat box, thank you, Rosie, for you to see it. You can also contact us at PUSD, Office of Family and Community Engagement. I put our phone number and also email address right there for you to see it. So if you decide to do the homework, please take a moment and just email me and say, hey, Suzanne, I took XYZ workshop and I did the homework. And that way we could keep track of you. And if you complete 4 workshops with the homeworks, you'll get the certificate by the end of the school year. I'm going to put my email address in the chat box for you. Again, I'd like to remind everybody that this workshop will be posted on our Canvas page. And if parents would like to go and take a look at it, they can certainly go back and check it again. Okay, I believe we reached the end of our presentation. Are there any additional questions? And we do have an evaluation. I can't see the chat box, but I'm sure Rosie put the chat box she put the evaluation in the chat box. Please take a moment and complete it to give us your opinion and your feedback. Any questions? Okay. Thank you again. We wish you a restful evening, and hopefully you would join our future workshops too. If you go to the Canvas page that Rosie put the link in the chat box, on that Canvas page, you'll see the calendar, and that calendar offers all the upcoming workshops, time and links and everything that you need to know. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great evening.